This is what the sword looks like in game. I split the sword blade into 4 pieces so it's easier to make. Once I had the 4 pieces completed, I connected 2 of the same pieces together with 2.5-inch sticks. Once I had the blade together connected by the 2.5-inch sticks, I then added the other outer part of the blade to that piece to give it a bend. I did that same exact thing to the other side. This ended up looking a lot better than I thought it would, and it was easier for me to do it like this than just layer up filament over and over and over again. Since I don't have a belt sander, it was also easier for me to smooth as well. After I smoothed both sides of the blade with my Clover mini iron, I then used a sanding tool to make it a little bit smoother and to get out some of the dents. This is what it looked like after I used the rotary tool. I wanted to make it even smoother and get out a couple more bumps. I ended up wet sanding it for an additional 6 to 7 minutes. The first handle I made for this sword ended up completely busted, like it just looks bad. The second handle that I made, the one that I ended up using, I forgot to record, so I don't have any footage of it, but I'm still gonna show it here. And as you can see, it looks way better than the one I just showed you, like just like way better. This is me smoothing the blade, and unfortunately I lost footage, so it automatically cuts to me adding the details here. To make this piece, all I did was draw it on paper, then put it onto the handle, then I built it up so it's a bit thicker and looks more detailed. what the handle ended up looking like when I was done sanding, and I was actually really happy about this because it looks really nice. After I finished making the handle to the blade, I ended up making the guard of the sword, which is the easiest thing to make in this whole project. After I made the guard to the sword, I ended up seeing if it could fit because I really didn't know. So I just sketched it out on paper, but it ended up fitting me very nicely in my opinion. I ended up smoothing the guard off camera, and even though the sword looks really great here just for a rotary tool and wet sanding, I wanted to make it look even better, so I covered the whole thing in spackle paste. After I covered the sword in spackle paste, I let it sit for 2 to 3 hours and I sanded it. What spackle paste does is going to fill in all those really small gaps that I left when I used the Dremel tool and the wet sand, and it's going to fill all the gaps in with the spackle paste, so the sword is going to look way thinner and with less gaps. You can get a better understanding of what I explained before when you can visually see the spots where the spackle paste filled in the gaps. After I sanded all the spackle paste off, I used a primer filler so I can sand it later and the blade will look even more smooth. I ended up using the spackle paste twice. I just didn't put it in this video, but I ended up sanding it with 1200 grit sandpaper. After I did this, I took the sword outside to spray paint the handle, but I'm pretty sure I messed up here because it ended up with a bunch of air bubbles in it. I covered the blade with a silver metallic paint, and I think it ended up looking really good in the end. This is what it looked like when I was completely done with it. I actually like the way it turned out. The handle does have air bubbles in it, but I still think the rest of this looks absolutely amazing.